Hi guys, and welcome to my channel. I have always been sensitive to the representation of my phenotype in the media, which is why I have dedicated a small part of my channel to overanalyzing and giving Black girl POV on the use of my phenotype and all the different kinds of media that I entertain. The Princess and the Frog is a Disney animated feature film about a hard-working waitress in New Orleans desperate to realize her dream of opening a restaurant. She is set on an adventure to turn a frog prince back into human once she finds herself facing the same problem after she kisses him. If you don't appreciate video essays discussing race, Black women and girls, impacts of negative image, and influence of the media, this is your sign to click out right now. You have been warned. Linked in the description is my Every Game Ranked video. Take a look at that instead, because in this video, I'm going to revisit the beloved film, The Princess and the Frog, and look deeply into how Disney decided to portray their first green princess? In 1937, around 87 years ago, the first Disney princess made her debut, and what followed was a line of heroines for girls to, well, of course, beg their parents to buy up all the merchandise, but also admire and adore. The Disney princesses became a prominent staple of fictional femininity. Although marketing was not restricted to children, as the little girls grew up, Disney promoted redesigns, a ton of merchandise, and even a line of Disney fairy tale wedding gowns and wedding rings were designed and based off the princesses. For girls like me, Disney princesses were a big part of our childhood and became our first image of female representation. Guess which princess is my favorite? Which one is yours? Currently, there are 13 princesses, not including the B Squad, okay? In 1992, Disney's first non-white princess was featured in the film Aladdin, Princess Jasmine, followed by Pocahontas in 1995, and then Mulan in 1998. 12-ish years ago, in 2009, Disney debuted their first Black Disney princess, Tiana. And for us, this was a huge deal. I don't think most of us expected Disney to ever include us in the princess lineup because it hadn't happened sooner. As for representation in Disney, we had a few Disney Channel original movies and successful Black Disney Channel shows, but there was nothing catered to Black girls, specifically ambiguous, monoracial, dark-skinned Black girls. But this was a time before the natural hair movement. People weren't as emotionally intelligent as they are now, and I think I personally normalized the exclusion. But regardless, we were so excited. This meant a lot to Black girls of all ages. Disney's first Black princess. They even announced that they were going to produce it with the classic hand-drawn art style, like the previous Disney princesses. Because originally Tiana was going to be the first CGI princess, but I guess there was a push to include her with the traditional princesses. I love the idea of her visuals being on the same level as the others. That stuck out to me. That gave me the impression that they had good intentions for her movie. That made me excited. Then there was another big change. So originally, Tiana was intended to be a chambermaid named Maddie. Maddie is a weird initial choice. It sounds way too close to Mammy, a derogatory term. Mammy is a historical stereotype depicting Black women, typically enslaved, who did domestic work including nursing children. When fictionalized, the Mammy character is often visualized as a dark-skinned Black woman, which sounds exactly who they intended Maddie to be, judging by her description as nothing more than a chambermaid. Eventually there was pushback and they decided to change her name to Tiana due to connotations. Yeah, no kidding. Also, the movie was going to be called The Frog Princess. I guess someone again twisted their arm and they changed it to The Princess and the Frog. This was not a good sign, and little did I know it was a hint of things to come. Overall, The Princess and the Frog is a cute movie. They have funny jokes. The movie was truly carried by the talented voice actors, art style, and music. But the story felt like they only did the bare minimum. The low effort, especially for a Disney standard, was palpable. I remember sitting in the theater after the credits rolled as Neo's big head started screaming, and realizing that I saw right through to the message Disney was subliminally sending me through The Princess and the Frog. I recognized their true intentions right away. So before we take a look at Tiana's phenotype, there is something I notice often associated with fictional black girls of our phenotype. And that's how black girl fictional characters are constantly weighed down by realism. When I think of Disney princesses, I think of magic. I don't think reality. I think unrealistic hair and whimsical adventures. And that's what I love. That's what makes them so special. Even if the story takes place in a serious setting, the princess always seems to possess an element of unachievable fantasy. Tiana is the only princess shrouded in realism. Oh, but she turns into a frog. Oh, well, yeah, we'll get to that. Immediately, we see that The Princess and the Frog takes place in the very real New Orleans, Louisiana. And not just that, her story takes place in the 1920s, during the Jim Crow era. For any non-Americans viewing, or those who attend school in Florida, Jim Crow laws were local and state laws which enforced segregating black people in the United States. Those historical pictures, whites only and colored signs that were in history books, they might have taken them out by now, I don't know. That comes from the Jim Crow era. These laws began right when President Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation during the Civil War in 1863, declaring that all persons held as slaves within rebellious states, aka the South, are henceforward shall be free. These Jim Crow laws lasted 100 years post-Civil War, up around 1968, which is, wow, not that long ago. There were already 3 Disney princesses by then. So they initially intended for Tiana to be a chambermaid named Maddie in the South during peak Jim Crow? I feel like that background for a black Disney princess is totally inappropriate and discouraging. What message do you think that sends to young black girls? History is important, but so is balance. We don't need to constantly see ourselves in that position all the time, especially if you guys want us to get over it, right? You know, it's really confusing when on one hand, we're being chastised for recalling slavery while simultaneously having your identity in the media constantly being linked to it. Unfortunately for black girls, we're always seeing our image being linked to slavery and struggle. Which again, I think we're somewhat improving in these days, but it's still way oversaturated. And intentional or not, this sends a deep message. It reads, having a princess who is black is not a good enough reason for a black princess to exist in fantasy. Her circumstances must validate her blackness. And for black girls, that equated to a southern maid, probably a generation away from the plantation, and struggle. It's sad that even fictional black girls have ridiculous and unfair standards. It's as if being black by herself isn't a good enough reason for her to be a princess or have a story dedicated to her. This is actually something I constantly have thrown in my face in the sci-fi fantasy community. I elaborate on this topic in my Why Do Black Girls Watch Game of Thrones video, link in the description. Black girls aren't allowed to simply exist in fantasy. When we do appear, people are quick to complain that it doesn't make sense or it isn't logical for a particular fictional character to be black and exist in a world of giants riding mammoths. Of course, the true intention behind this kind of racist gaslighting is to exclude black girls from the genre entirely, but it's practically validated in films such as this. Tiana's character and existence is submerged with reality in a way that I find it unfair for black girls who are finally getting their first black Disney princess. While non-black girls often get a chance to see themselves in truly fantastical worlds doing extraordinary things, black girls are saddled with reality. Don't get me wrong, Tiana's ambition is admirable. Determination is a powerful quality to have, and I like it on her. For context, Tiana's dad was also a hard worker and the first to dream of owning a restaurant. Sadly, he died in service, so Tiana took over his dream out of love for her father. But now look at her, overworking herself, probably her way of dealing with the grief of losing him. This is actually too close to reality for a lot of black women in the US. So many black women succumb to health issues due to overworking. I do think, as a collective, we are becoming more aware of this risk and making changes to live a softer life. But seeing women work hard in this sense is a reality for the collective of little black girls in a sad way. Also, this is a sign to take your PTO. Do not overwork yourself, you guys. It's not worth it. No job is. Tiana's entire personality, being a hard worker, hints at that strong, independent woman trope, a stereotype that plagues Black women, given with the intent to subliminally mock Black women due to our collective severe lack of support. I don't like that Black girls had to watch their princess be exhausted in the moments she was human. A Disney movie should be escapism for them. Instead, The Princess and the Frog sends another message. Non-Black girls can be fairies and mermaids, while Black girls get to be tropes. For the minute time that Tiana is human, she is beautiful. They nailed the Black girl phenotype, chef's kiss. She is a dark-skinned, unambiguous Black girl who presents very feminine, with pretty brown eyes, lovely Black girl features such as the nose and lips, and the cutest dimples. I know her voice actress, Miss Anika Nani Rose, requested those features be present. However, Tiana's hair sucks, and I take great offense to this. Now, for a deep dive on why hair is so important to Black girls and women, please see my video titled Afro Puff vs. Space Buns in Animal Crossing New Horizons, link in the description. But let's not pretend like we don't know. Disney princesses are known for amazing, unrealistic hair. It's a shame this couldn't extend to Tiana. Since realism is obviously the theme of Tiana's essence, the animators gave her the most low-effort hairstyle. Not putting in any effort in her hair was such a miss. Just imagine if there was an actual effort in giving Tiana her own signature hairstyle. That would be a trend that little girls would be styling to this day. Now, this was way before the natural hair movement, so maybe better examples were less obvious. They did get the hair right with the merchandise for some strange reason. Now, when I saw Encanto, I was big mad. And although I didn't see the movie, I saw that they gave Asha box braids. That let me know that Tiana's low effort bun was intentional. And let's not forget, when they tried it, Disney whitewashed Tiana's image for the CGI Wreck-It Ralph promotions. Anika Nani Rose, the talented voice actress behind Tiana, actually met with Disney Animation on behalf of Black women and girls to express why Tiana's phenotype as a Black woman was representation for us and so important. She honestly was the perfect choice for the role. So we all know the big I Want song in Disney movies. In Hercules, it was Go the Distance. And The Hunchback of Notre Dame, it was Out There. And for Tarzan, Phil Collins went crazy with that entire soundtrack, but it was Son of Man or even Strangers Like Me. For the Disney princesses, we have Part of Your World, A Whole New World, Just Around the River Bend, and Reflection, just to name a few of my favorites. What's your favorite I Want song? Leave it in the comments. During Almost There, Tiana's big I Want song and dream sequence, the animation shifts. They utilize an Art Deco graphic style based on the art of the Harlem Renaissance painter Aaron Douglas, and it was cute, but after seeing how long Tiana remained a frog throughout the movie, I wish they kept her in the reality art style while including the style of the Harlem Renaissance, like they did at the end of the movie with the Shadow Man. I feel like this was another way of disguising her instead of celebrating her image on screen. I wanted to see cute Black girl visuals accompanied by vocals. That's how it was for every other Disney princess. Now let's get into why this movie really went off the rails. This is my big ick with Princess and the Frog. There's an ongoing trend of dehumanization of Black people in film. We saw this again in Pixar's Soul that came out in 2020. Dehumanization is the process of depriving a person or group of positive human qualities. This happens to Black women so much in the media and results in mistreatment and fatal consequences out in the real world. It is cruel, evil, and validated in films like this. Tiana remained a frog from the 30-minute mark up until the 1 hour, 28-minute mark, and the movie was about an hour and a half long before credits. Out of all the animals, why did it have to be a frog? Why not something prettier, more elegant, and ladylike? Why not a swan? If we have to be any animal, why not a swan? Disney likes to compete with DreamWorks anyways. Imagine if they produced their own The Swan Princess. Imagine that being our first black princess. Speaking of, let's compare real quick. In DreamWorks' The Swan Princess, Odette, the princess protagonist of that film, handled her anamorphs way better than Tiana. The Swan Princess was way more successful in balancing the human and swan form. Odette was not a bird the majority of the movie. She only turned into a swan during the day. She did temporarily return to her true form at night, as long as she stands on the lake when the moonlight touches. Of course, I'm referring to the original Swan Princess. I don't know what I just found on Netflix, but oh my god, Derek! What did they do to him? What's interesting, with these new reboot Swan Princesses on Netflix, Odette doesn't even turn into a swan. I kind of skimmed it a little bit, and all I see is Odette in her human princess form. So what does that say? Seeing Tiana as a frog the majority of the movie left a sour taste in my mouth and kind of defeated the purpose of having a black princess. It felt intentional. Because Tiana is a frog, the love between her and Naveen isn't believable. The voice actors were very convincing, but they could only do so much when I'm staring at two Kermits. For the other princesses, you saw those little cute interactions and visuals of love. That is part of the ninjutsu that made us romanticize Disney men and their relationships in the first place. These moments made the movie so romantic. As romantic as a kid's movie can get. But it made the love story more appealing to most girls. The love did not translate well because they were frogs. Naveen and Tiana in human form together barely got any screen time, which is too bad because what we got was adorable. With that being said, I did notice a few positives, like Prince Naveen. It's actually great that he isn't black. Although I think it is improving a little, black girls don't really get to see themselves in romantic relationships with non-black men. There is this weird, lopsided expectation in the black community, which often results in black women exclusively supporting black males without any reciprocation. Of course, this trickles down to the relationships and the pressures black women receive to exclusively date within the community, while the reverse is celebrated amongst black men. For this reason, it is important for black girls to see more images of black women being loved by non-black men. Balance, Although I complained about Tiana being a struggle trope, I actually do admire her work ethic. Two things can be true at the same time. I'm glad she's not as useless as the previous princesses, nor is she as forcibly quirky and clumsy like all the new girls for some reason. She has a personality unique to herself, which is cool. I just don't like seeing black women always being depicted as just overworking chicks. The decision to make Tiana a frog for most of the movie sent an intentional message to the Disney black girl fan base. After the movie, I remember feeling very disappointed and embarrassed. I knew immediately what message Disney was sending to me with this movie. Our first, probably only, black princess was a frog the majority of the movie. That was a slight, a sneak diss, to black women and our individual standard of beauty. No matter what, you're a frog. We'll make you a princess, okay? But you're gonna be a frog. We see what happens when black girls receive notable positive feminine roles in Disney via Halle Bailey in the live-action Little Mermaid. People have excuses all damn day about why they don't like that movie and Halle in the role of Ariel, but I recognize something else. Most people don't like seeing black girls and women in truly whimsical, fantastical worlds. It's almost like black girls can't be portrayed as carefree, happy, or feminine. They have to be fighting, struggling, or suffering and tired. I think Disney planned on how representation-starved black women and girls were, especially back in 2009, and knew they would support the princess regardless of how they presented her. And for the most part, they're right about that. By the way, I heard there would be a new Tiana series on Disney Plus premiering this year. I'm actually really looking forward to the project. This could be redemption. The official description for Tiana states that the show will follow the title character as she sets off for a brand new adventure as the newly crowned Princess of Maldonia. But a calling to her New Orleans past isn't far behind. I kind of like that. I love the idea of Tiana going to a fictional kingdom as a new princess. It almost sounds like they were aware of all the negative representation and tropes presented in The Princess and the Frog. And now Tiana will actually have some magic, not voodoo, incorporated in her story. As long as she does not turn into another animal, I look forward to the series. Thank you guys so much for watching. Per usual, I apologize for my computer wind tunnel. You hear it right now? Please respectfully leave your feedback in the comments below. And don't forget to like the video. Check out the linked videos that I put in the description. You might like them. Check out my video titled Overanalyzing That One Moment in Daria. That video really changed the game and inspired me to make a ton more representation focused content. Thank you all who found me and subscribed through that video. And I hope you're not too offended by my in-depth analysis of my phenotype in The Princess and the Frog. My intention is not to invalidate the princess, she is very much beloved. I just think it's super important to keep it real with myself when analyzing my representation. And besides, I can't help it.
I just tell the truth, and telling the truth is crazy in a world full of lies.